Welcome to the Manifest, Manage, and Multiply Money podcast. I'm Audrey Faust, the Manifesting CFO, and I'm your host. And on this podcast, we are going to hear real conversations from women who have built multi-six-figure, seven-figure, and even multi-seven-figure businesses. We're going to explore the identity shifts, the mindset, and the leadership evolutions that they went through in order to grow a business. You know, the things that nobody talks about, because building wealth isn't only about strategy. It's about the mindset and the woman you have to become in order to do this. Now, let's dive in. So today, I am so excited to be interviewing Danielle Marggraf, and she is a multi-six-figure business owner. She is the founder of the Embodied Women Movement, putting more money in the hands of women through reclaiming voice, identity, power, and creating wealth through reconnecting to body wisdom and liberating the wild woman within. That is awesome. I love that, Danielle. We have a lot to talk about today, but if you could first just spend about 60 seconds or so and let everybody know what your business looks like today and what you most love about it.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me, Audrey. So I work with women exclusively. I believe that more money in the hands of women will change the world, and good women, right? Like women who are doing like these amazing things in the world to heart-centered, soul-led. And I have multiple ways that women connect with me in terms of my community or mastermind, things like that. But I think really what I feel is the future of women leaders is true embodiment. It's no longer producing or who you are, which we talked a lot about roles before we hopped on, right? Like, what do you
Right.
call yourself? Right? It's not about that. It's really about the truth of who do you embody, what do you embody, and are you in integrity with that in every part of your life? And I believe that is going to be what, sort of cuts the fat or, right, like just is puts us at the advantage in terms of how we're going to help change the world.
That's amazing. I love that. And that's ironically what this podcast is all about
I
is
love that.
the identity. So
I love that.
I'm excited to keep talking with you today about this. What would you say was a defining moment when money started to feel maybe safer or cleaner or more expansive for you?
Yeah, so I think for me, I think in our businesses, there are these like really big, threshold moments, and so for me, I actually probably a few years ago, I was looking through old journals that I was going to burn. And in everything that I wrote, it said, bring in $100,000, bring in $100,000, bring in $100,000. For whatever reason, that was the number at the time, right? I mean, and these were from my 20s, that was the number that I thought was going to be like the number that I would be rich at, right? Like everything would go away if I could just bring in this $100,000. And money for me, just so I want everyone to who's listening to understand, money for me has been my greatest spiritual teacher. It's also the thing that my clients, right? It's the teacher for my clients, right? Money is the teacher. And I say that because women come in wanting to make more money, having done all the traditional strategies of money or traditional business strategies, and it hasn't worked. And so by the time they come into my world, it's usually around like, I've done all the work. I've done the inner work. I've done the therapy. I've done the traditional strategies. What is going on? What's wrong with me? Why isn't it working? Why am I not there yet? Right. And I so get that. And so what I will say is for a very long time, my work and my coaching was around manifesting and mindset and money. That was what I focused on. And I really believe that becoming a master over myself was going to be the way. I still believe that is the way, right? I believe the why is the way and the way is us. And what really was the first sort of thing was I had done this mindset work for so long, I would get a little bit and then I'd fall back and I'd manifest and then I'd fall back. And I'm a single mama. So for me, my bottoming out was like a severe, scary bottoming out of homelessness with my two children. And I found somatic work and I found nervous system work. And because I've come from trauma in my childhood, I realized like no one had ever talked to me about this in mindset work, right? No one had ever talked about trauma as it pertains to manifesting. No one ever, right? Like I never knew survival as it connects to, money even, right? And so once I found that, around 6, 8, 9 months later, maybe a year later, just I can't remember the timeline exactly. I blew through 6 figures to my first $154,000 year, and that was a huge turning point because I had broken the barrier through, and that was not only unheard of in my family of origin, but it really positioned me as like this small percentage of women who were self-made and creating that level of success in the industry, right? So that was probably it sits in my heart as like, oh yeah, that's when you prove, Danielle, that not only could you do it, but that you would do it and that now sky's the limit, right? So I
Wow.
would say that.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that story.
Sure.
So, how long ago was that? Did you say? I was just curious.
I think it was 2019 or 2020,
Okay. So
something
not,
like that.
20 years ago. It was
Yeah.
more
No.
recent. So
Yeah,
that's
no.
fantastic.
Yeah, yeah.
um what I mean, you talked a little bit about this already. Like,
Mhm.
was there a belief that you had to let go of around money?
Just one?
Name as many as you want,
I
right?
know. Well,
That's
for
why we're
me,
here.
yeah, my belief around money really stems from it wasn't about maybe money itself in particular, although I'm sure if I had to dig some up, I could dig some up around money. I grew up in a household where there was never enough, or there was at least the constant yelling of it's not enough and it's not enough and it's not enough. And so the what I think happened for me inside of me was the constant hearing that there wasn't enough. I actually internalized it as I wasn't enough.
Oh, wow.
And I think that's the sneaky thing about subconscious pattern is that you could be hearing it about one thing, but you can start internalizing it about something else, especially when there's so many other things happening in your life, right? In whatever's going on with you. But to me, money represented worthiness. And if I didn't have it, it was because I was unworthy. And I also believe that was a very deep connection with shame. What's wrong with me? And it's what's wrong with me probably in lots of parts of my life. But money for me was people who had money were better than me. People
Mm,
that had money were more worthy than me. People that had money were um they were on this pedestal of like, yeah, better, worthy, and as a reflection, I was not that internally. And so money was an absolute tangible reflection of what I call in my practice emotional debt, right? And so I carried this emotional debt that translated into.
right. Wow. And how did you overcome that?
Yeah. So I think for me, it was a lot of somatic work, like, right? Like I did tons of nervous system work and somatic work and really being in. So I believe that our mind lives in our body and our body is the subconscious. And so I think a lot of times we're chasing thoughts to fix the money problems, but I believe that really our patterns live within the body because that is where our subconscious mind lives. And really working on patterns and healing the shame and the deep unworthiness, both in nervous system work, in mindset work, right? Like there's part of that. I never exclude anything, right? Like it
Right.
all is valuable. But for me and for the women that I work with, top down doesn't work. It's body up, right? So
Mm.
we have to go from the bottom up in order to do it. We feel first and then we can follow and track what we're thinking, right? We are highly sensitive, we're very empathic, we're highly intuitive women, and we are not necessarily strategists first, right? So the method that I really came to that worked best for me was that while I'm a great strategist, right? And my women make great money, but it's the strategy comes after this part.
The clearing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's
Yeah.
not for me a clearing. It's more of a reorganizing and a reconnection with the parts of myself that I thought maybe were bad. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you mentioned somatic work, just in case listeners aren't familiar with what that is. Can you just give some examples what somatic work is?
Yeah, so I think a lot of people are it's trending in that people use somatic as like they'll say, I have a course for you on somatic yoga. Well, somatic is really just the Greek word, soma is the Greek word for body, right? So it's kind of redundant, body yoga or body exercise, right? Like, and so a lot of times people think of somatic work as the physical body. And yes, that is, but the way I do somatic work and the way I was trained and how I work with my clients is internal. We have an internal world. And so I work in the internal patterns that are keeping you in a loop of the same old same, right? And so for me and how I operate in it is we work in the body, in the soma as an entryway to the deeper part of you that is wired to create states of right. I love talking about states. So wealth is a state, right? And you can't be in a state of wealth if you are connected to a state of survival. So if
Or poverty,
your
right?
mind will say, I want to be wealthy. I want to make six figures. I want to make seven figures. I want to make, right? But if your body's in a state of survival, that's going to be very, very challenging. And so we work with patterns and rewiring and reorganizing to what does that state feel like? What is our identity in that? How do we reclaim our power in that? And then work in all the different ways around that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
sure.
Where did you soften instead of push in order for this level of success that you're currently at and stabilize?
Yeah. So, um, I think that I softened in a lot of different places. I think one of the ways that I softened is connecting that receiving is not about proving or getting, right? So I believe that we are here to give. I believe that we're here to do, but I believe that receiving is not attached to what I do or give. Receiving is just a channel that I have opened that is my birthright to receive, just
Okay.
as it's my birthright to give, just as it's my birthright to be an offering, right? Like it is all parts of me. And I think that my personal journey was around that there's nothing wrong with me.
Mm.
And that once I accept all parts of me and I stop judging the parts that I think were wrong or bad, I get to show up in my truth authentically without trying to perform anything to get something. And I think a lot of times, and maybe can relate to this as well, but I think most women, we have been conditioned and trained that it's better one to give than receive.
Yeah.
And that if you are a giver, you are a saint, and if you're always receiving, you are a sinner in some way, right? You're bad. And I also believe that we have been trained to really trade our power, our thought, our voice, and our identity, our true identity, that I am identity, that soul part of us. We've been taught to trade that for safety. And that when we start to reclaim that, it can feel selfish. It can feel like we're being greedy. It can feel like people aren't going to like us, right? Where when we
Exactly.
are sort of that sacrificial, oh my gosh, I just want to give and give. We value being a good person and we extract being a good person from having money.
Yes,
We don't,
exactly.
right? And so for me, it was about I'm a good person and I'm allowed to receive. And if that rubs someone the wrong way, that's their work, not my work.
100%.
Yeah.
Usually when we trigger somebody, it's about them and not us. I
Yeah.
always say that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so true.
But you bring up a lot of great points
Mm.
around that. Women, like, we're born nurturers, right? We have to because we're the mother and it's just in our DNA.
Mhm.
So we think that we can't receive, right? Such a great point. Or if we receive too much, then that's bad. And I see this again and again too, or women struggle with that. Like, well, I don't need more,
Mm.
right? I don't need more money. However, when you receive more money, you get to then decide what you want to do with that money. That's, what I always say, right? So, like, you get to decide. You're not leaving the money out there for everybody else to decide. Like, what's your feeling on that too?
Well, I love what you were saying about mothering. And you know what? I just heard recently someone say, and I can't even place where I heard it right now, that mother as a role is the nurturer, but mothering is actually very masculine, right? Like pick up your shoes, wear your coat. Did you eat yet? What do you got to eat? Do it, right? Like it's very masculine in the doing. We're always doing for someone else, right? We're doing. And that in and of itself is like mother, female, feminine, very right, receiving, right, energy. But mothering, the act of being a mother is very masculine because we're always freaking doing. And
True. Very
so,
true. Never thought of it that way.
yeah. And so as a single mom, like I've always felt like I'm doing like more than maybe, right? Because I'm doing the dad and the mom
Right.
and the nurturing and the discipline and the making sure everyone's okay and the survive, right? All of it. And so, I sort of look at receiving and being an overflow and an abundance of our birthright, right? Like one of the things that I do a wealth consciousness class called $1,000,000 Frequency every Monday in my embodied woman community. And one of the things that comes up a lot is that, we're having this human experience and we can create it however we want. And if we want to have an experience of overflow, of, I don't know, going to Peru and having, some ayahuasca ceremony, we can do that as medicine. But if we want to be on a yacht and experience what it feels like to have some luxury vacation, we can do that. Whatever it is that we want to have the experience of, we get to choose our experience. And we get to have that as we're here. We can heal forever. We could go into our unconscious or our subconscious and be healing forever. But if we're always healing and not creating simultaneously, we have nothing to show for it. And so I think that there is this balance of doing our work, which is, and I say healing because it's always growth, it's always expansion, it's like new level, new devil, right? There's always
Yes.
something that we could be working on. But we need to also be in manifesting creation of our experiences and our reality. And so those go hand in hand. And I think it's always about, right? What do we want to experience next? And more money means more responsibility. It means more choice. It means more freedom. It also means we're offering more impact and more service. And we need to build our capacity to not only hold what we receive, but can we hold the capacity of what we're doing and giving as well? Because that's the energetic equilibrium that I think a lot of people don't get. And so they want more money, but they want the 4-hour work week. And while that's great for some, I think that there's this misconception of I want to work less and make most, where I think the women that at least are in my world, we're doing it because it's our calling, it's our purpose. So we're not looking to work ourselves out of it. Right? We're
Right.
looking you know what I mean? It's just not that we wanna kill ourselves either, but it's like there's a way that we're moving in this work where it's like soul work. It's like our primordial purpose. It's in our DNA to come and fulfill this, but we need to be well resourced for it. And, I was just talking to someone last night, and what I know with all of my heart is that if the desire is within you, there's a buyer for it, 'cause it would not have been placed in you if there wasn't. So, I don't know, it all sort of works together.
Um, Another question I'd like to ask you, Danielle, is like, how does your personal intuition and inner knowing play into your decisions
Everything.
in your business?
Yeah, everything. I that's the only place I go. That is like I do not override my intuition. I do not override my body's wisdom. I do not override my inner voice. I would say that that was a practice and a learned skill, I would say, growing up. And early on in my business, I felt like everyone was an expert of me and of whatever it is I was trying to learn to figure out. And I do think that we're always here to learn, right? It's not that I know everything, but I will always honor my own intuitive hits. I honor my yeses. I honor my nos. I honor, you know, and we've all had that experience where we're like, we said yes because we thought it was a great opportunity and we didn't want to say no, but it ended up being really bad, right? Or, right, we've said no and we're like, I knew I should have done that. And so, yeah. And that is really what we do. That's what embodiment is, right? Embodiment is the path to mastering your own inner voice and hearing it and following it, even if it's crazy, right? A lot of times we want to look at the 3D world and say, well, that doesn't make sense, that thought, that idea going that direction. But I have never been wrong when I moved in that way.
And how do you tune into that
Well, there's
personally?
lots of ways you can tune into it, but for me, a lot of that is somatic, right? Like I am tuning into always my body sensation. I'm tuning into, always listening to the voice. I'm meditating. I have my spiritual practices. I really find that for me, I am a natural doer. I'm an Aries. I'm a fire sign. I am like, right. I'm a generator. I don't know if you're a human design
Yeah, I'm
fan.
a manifesting generator myself.
Okay, so, right, we are like plug us in, and we are the door cell of the
Yes.
right, of the universe. We do not and what I have found is that when I need to slow down, sometimes it takes me 2 days to finally settle, to come, and I always need to be recharging myself, and so, uh, I have set times and days aside for myself where I can be a receiver and a channel and settle in and right? And then that doesn't mean I do nothing. It could be a day that I write. I end up getting lots of downloads and that's a day that I'm creating and writing. It could be that's a day that I'm, really moving in some creative way or the way that I'm moving is different than in a way where I'm having a CEO day or I'm having a day that I'm just checking off the boxes, needing to get stuff done. But I think that's so important for women in general, but definitely women in business and definitely women who might be maybe the doers and super ambitious and the hustlers and the fixers, right? Because it can, 1, feel unsafe, and 2, we don't give ourselves that time and space because we think time is money or, I need to hurry up and get this done, or if I slow down, the money won't come in, right? So,
Right.
they
And
connect.
actually, the opposite is true. I know I've seen that, like, I've had money come in with my toes in the sand,
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
I
exactly.
say that all the time. It's like we think that our output equals our receiving, and it's actually the opposite. It's our energy. I talk about that all the time. It's
Yeah,
where are you in your best energy?
yeah, yeah, definitely.
How do you, like, balance yourself, trust yourself around, like, real world numbers and responsibility of that, like managing your numbers, your financial pieces?
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, are we talking about numbers that are coming in, like what I'm making for that month or
Yes.
how, or okay. So I tend to be steady at a certain five-figure amount, right? It's like I'm just always typically steady around that amount. And I usually don't go below that amount. I find that if I focus on the number, I am misaligned. So I very rarely will focus on the number. I focus on how I'm feeling. I focus on who I'm here to help. I focus on opening myself up to what I'm here, how I'm here to serve. And I might have a number that I'm like, it would be really nice, right, to hit that number if I have like a new launch coming or a new class that I'm offering, right? There might be like a number of, you know, what I'd love to get, like a dream number. There might be like a number that I think I'm going to hit. There might be a number where I'm like, wah, 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 not so great number. But typically, I am very intentional with my energy. I'm very intentional with my why of why am I offering this? Why am I creating this? I just don't feel like the number is where if I put my attention on or my focus on, it never works for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
focus on the people instead of the number is what I'm
Yeah,
and the service.
I focus on the people, I focus on the impact, I focus on where I'm needed, I focus on what I feel called to come in and create, right? What's coming through me that wants to be channeled through. And you know, I think the way the numbers go is like this, right? So I have a mastermind and it costs a certain amount of money. And maybe I'll think to myself, okay, I might have a feeling of like, I want to put two more people in my mastermind, right? And instead of looking at, okay, I got to bring in that much. If I have the desire to bring two more women in, then I know there's two women who want what I have because my desire wouldn't be there otherwise. And so I really sit with, okay, where are they? Put me in their path, show me them, bring me in conversations with them, connect me with them, and I'm sort of looking and feeling into where do I feel called to be? What rooms do I feel called to be in? Who do I feel called to be connected to? Who comes out of the nowhere and says, "Hey, I'd love to connect with you." Right? And building those relationships versus looking at, I want to bring this amount of money into my business this month. Because that I think is where we get into the hustle, we get into the chase of money. And I don't chase money. I get to receive it. I get to do and give, but I don't need to chase it because I believe in money flow.
Love that.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So do you have a free gift that you would like to talk about to our audience?
Yeah, sure. So I have something that I call the 3-minute somatic money reset. And it is, it might be a little longer than 3 minutes, but I think we originally intended it to be 3 minutes. And so I think from intro to end, it might be 7 minutes, but you can use that if you use it every morning, if you use it in anytime during the day that you feel called to reconnect to your body, reconnect to the energy, reconnect to, right, this idea of, okay, right, money is an energy, money is the energy of love, money is the energy of connection, money is the energy of being in total service, right? Like sort of supports you to keep coming back into the body. And so if you make that a practice, it can actually start to support to rewire neural pathways of lack into, oh, that's right. I remember I'm deeply connected. I'm deeply connected to my own wisdom. I'm deeply connected to my intuition. I'm deeply connected to myself. I got this. I'm deeply connected to spirit. I'm deeply connected to soul. And so, yeah, that's what I have to offer.
Beautiful. Thank
Yeah.
you for that free gift. That sounds amazing.
Thank you.
And where can people find you, Danielle? They're looking to connect with you.
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram at Danielle Marggraf. I love to connect with people on there. I think you can connect with me on Facebook. I think I'm maxed out on friends, so if you can follow me there. Facebook's your jam. I'm not too active on LinkedIn, but you can always connect with me there. I have a website called daniellemargraf.com. You can always check me out there and some of my offerings. Yeah,
Awesome. Thank you so
yeah.
much.
Thank you.
So, I have one closing question that I love to ask everyone.
Okay.
If you could speak to a woman standing on the edge of her next level,
Mm.
what would you want her to know?
Trust the vision of that next level self and make decisions from her and not from the current self, right? So I think a lot of times when we are really standing at the precipice of significant up level or change, right? It's really about I trust myself to show up at this as this version of me who I know is in me and wants to be liberated, right? I call it the wild woman, right? If we want to she wants to be liberated, right? And there will always be this push pull when we're moving into more of her, which is the old pattern or the old fear or the old doubt. That old voice will come up, and surround yourself with women who believe in that vision of you, who will hold you through the change of really embodying that version of you, and keep going and practice holding the pressure of her, because that comes with wobbles and fears and uncertainty, and it's all so normal. It's also normal. You can't dehumanize growth, right? We're human. We're going to feel all those things. It doesn't make you bad or wrong or going in the wrong direction. It just means that, yeah, you're there and ready. And here we go.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for
Thank
all
you
your
so much.
great wisdom today, Danielle. And
Thank
I
you.
appreciate you hopping on and
Yeah.
chatting with us.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Manifest, Manage, and Multiply Money podcast. If this conversation resonated with you, please share it with another woman who's building something meaningful. And if you are enjoying this podcast, I would greatly appreciate it if you left a review. Leaving a review can help more women discover these conversations. And until next time, keep manifesting, managing, and multiplying your money.